All right, let's dive into this. You guys have said in some really fascinating stuff about gut health lately.
Yeah, it's one of those things, the more you learn about it.
The deeper the rabbit hole goes, right?
Absolutely.
It's pretty amazing to think how much this internal system impacts our overall well-being, physically and mentally. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, when we talk about gut health, I mean, at its simplest, we're talking about our digestive system, right? But then you start coming across these terms like the second brain, and it's like, wait a minute, what's really going on here?
Right.
So, maybe we can start there. From all the research you've been doing, what exactly is gut health and why should we really care about it?
Well, at its core, it all comes down to this sort of delicate balance, a balance of all the microorganisms that live in our gastrointestinal tract. Trillions of them, actually.
Trillions.
Yeah,
Wow.
it really is mind-boggling. And we're not just talking about bacteria. There are also viruses, fungi, all sorts of things, creating this complex ecosystem.
An entire little world living inside of us.
Exactly. And a healthy gut is essential for so many things.
Hmm.
Of course, there's digestion,
Mm-hmm.
breaking down food and absorbing nutrients like vitamins and minerals, but goes way beyond that.
Oh, yeah. I've seen some stuff about the immune system too, right? Like it's not just about digestion.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
hit the nail on the head. A huge part of our immune system, something like 70% of it, actually resides in the gut. It's incredible.
70%, that's a lot.
It is. And this might be the most surprising part for some people, there's this really strong connection to our mental health as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's something I definitely want to dig into more. That's something we've gotten a lot of questions about. But before we jump into that, you mentioned this whole ecosystem thing,
Fair.
this gut microbiome. Can you break that down for us a little bit more? I know one of the articles we got was all about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So think of your gut like a bustling city.
Okay, I like that analogy.
It's filled with all kinds of residents, like we talked about, bacteria, viruses,
Yeah.
fungi. They're all living there, interacting with each other and with us.
Like a microscopic New York City.
Haha, exactly. And when everything's running smoothly, when there's a good balance of different types of microbes, we generally feel pretty good.
So who are the good guys in this city? And maybe more importantly, who are the bad guys we need to watch out for?
Good question. So the beneficial bacteria, we can think of them as the essential workers. They're the ones who help break down food, produce vitamins, and even fight off harmful invaders. Some of them even help with detoxification. It's pretty amazing.
Wow, so they're keeping things clean and running smoothly.
Exactly. But then there are what we sometimes call pathogenic bacteria. Now, it's important to remember that not all bacteria are bad all the time. But when these pathogenic bacteria start to outnumber the good guys, that's when we can run into trouble.
So it's all about maintaining that balance, that equilibrium.
Precisely. And when that balance gets thrown off, that's what we call dysbiosis.
Dysbiosis. Okay, so that's when things start to go wrong in our gut city.
Right. And that can manifest in all sorts of ways.
So what are some of the signs that our gut might be out of whack? That we might have this dysbiosis thing going on?
Well, I mean, some of them are pretty obvious. Things like, persistent bloating, constipation, diarrhea. Those are usually pretty clear signals that something's not quite right.
Yeah, those are the classic digestive troubles.
Right. But then it can get a little more subtle because remember, the gut is connected to so many other systems in the body.
Yeah, you mentioned the immune system before.
Exactly. So if your gut's out of balance, your immune system might not be functioning at its best. You might find yourself getting sick more often, catching colds or other infections more easily.
Makes sense. I mean, if your defenses are down.
Right. And then there's the mental health connection, which is something we got a lot of questions about, and for good reason.
Yeah, that's a big one. So how does a messed up gut actually impact our mental state?
Well, the gut and the brain are in constant communication with each other. This is what we call the gut-brain axis. And they communicate through this complex network of nerves, hormones, and neurotransmitters.
Neurotransmitters, those are those chemical messengers in the brain, right?
Exactly. And here's the fascinating part. A lot of these neurotransmitters are actually produced in the gut.
Wait, really? I always thought those were all made in the brain.
Nope, the gut's a major player in this. For example, did you know that about 90% of serotonin, a key neurotransmitter for mood regulation, is produced in the gut, not the brain?
90%? Seriously? That's wild.
I know, right?
Mhm.
It's amazing. So when our gut's out of balance, it can actually disrupt the production of these neurotransmitters. And that can have a huge impact on our mood, our sleep, our stress levels, all sorts of things.
So if our gut's unhappy, our brain's unhappy too.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And this is backed up by a lot of research. There are studies showing that a healthier gut can actually lead to improvements in symptoms of anxiety and depression.
Okay, so this is a pretty big deal. It's not just about, a little tummy trouble. This is about our overall mental well-being.
Absolutely. And it's something we have a lot more control over than we might think.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What can we actually do to improve our gut health? I know the research you sent over goes into a lot of detail about specific foods that can help.
Right. So there are definitely things we can do through our diet. And one of the biggest things is making sure we're getting enough of what are called probiotics and prebiotics.
Probiotics, those are those good bacteria, right? Like you can find them in yogurt and stuff.
Exactly. Probiotics are live beneficial bacteria that can help to replenish and diversify the good guys in our gut. Like you said, yogurt is a good source, but you want to make sure it has live and active cultures.
Got it. So we're literally adding good bacteria to our system when we eat those foods.
You got it. And then there are prebiotics.
Prebiotics. Okay, so how are those different?
Think of prebiotics as food for the good bacteria that are already in your gut or that you're introducing through probiotics. They're basically types of fiber that our bodies can't digest, but that our gut bacteria love to munch on.
So it's like we're feeding the good guys to help them thrive.
Exactly. It's about creating a good environment for them to flourish.
So where can we find these prebiotics?
Lots of delicious foods are rich in prebiotics. Things like garlic, onions, bananas, asparagus leeks, and Jerusalem artichokes.
Okay, so it's not just about yogurt then. There are lots of different foods we can include.
Absolutely. And besides probiotics and prebiotics, fiber in general is super important for gut health.
Right, fiber. That's something we've all heard about, but maybe not specifically in relation to gut health.
It plays a huge role. Fiber helps keep things moving smoothly through the digestive system, what we call gut motility. And it also provides nourishment for those beneficial gut bacteria,
So the more fiber, the merrier.
basically. Aim for a variety of fiber sources, things like whole grains, legumes, fruits, vegetables, all those good things.
All right, so we've got probiotics, prebiotics, fiber. What else should we be looking for in our diet?
Oh, and I almost forgot polyphenols. They're these amazing plant compounds that act as antioxidants.
Antioxidants, those are the good guys that fight off free radicals, right?
Exactly. And it turns out that polyphenols can also have a positive impact on the composition of our gut microbiome. You can find them in things like green tea, dark chocolate, berries, nuts, and even red wine.
Okay, dark chocolate and red wine. Now you're talking.
Everything in moderation, of course.
Right, of course. So we've got a pretty solid list of foods to focus on here, but I know from the research you sent that it's not just about diet.
Right. There's more to it than just what we eat.
Our lifestyle plays a role too, right? Like exercise, sleep, stress, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. Exercise is actually really important for gut health. It helps improve gut motility so everything moves through efficiently, and it can actually increase the diversity of your gut microbiome.
So basically getting our bodies moving is good for our gut bugs too.
Exactly. And then there's stress.
Ugh, stress. It always seems to be the villain.
It can definitely wreak havoc on our gut health. When we're stressed, it can actually reduce the population of beneficial bacteria and make it easier for the less helpful ones to take over.
So finding ways to manage stress is crucial.
Definitely. Things like meditation, yoga, spending time in nature, anything that helps you relax and de-stress.
All right, stress management, check. What about sleep? I wouldn't have immediately thought of that as being connected to gut health.
It's a connection that's getting more and more attention these days. And research suggests that not getting enough sleep can actually disrupt the balance of bacteria in our gut.
So pulling all-nighters is probably not the best thing for our gut.
Not ideal, no. Aim for that solid 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep per night. It's important for so many aspects of our health, including our gut.
Okay, so we've got a lot of good things to add to our routine. Are there also things we should be actively trying to avoid or reduce? Like things that are known to be harmful to gut health?
For sure. One of the big ones is the overuse of antibiotics. While antibiotics are obviously important in certain situations, they can wipe out both good and bad bacteria in the gut.
So they're kind of like a scorched earth approach.
Right. And then there are things like NSAIDs, those over-the-counter pain relievers, excessive alcohol consumption, and a diet that's heavy on processed foods.
So basically, things that are generally considered unhealthy are also likely to be bad for our gut.
Pretty much. It all ties together.
Makes sense. Now, I know there are a lot of myths and misconceptions floating around about gut health. What are some of the big ones that we should be aware of?
Oh, yeah. There are definitely some things to watch out for. One big one is this idea that taking any old probiotic will magically fix all your gut problems. It's just not that simple. Different probiotics contain different strains of bacteria, and they have different effects.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Right. And then there's the idea that all fermented foods are automatically probiotic powerhouses. While a lot of fermented foods are great, some of them, like certain types of sauerkraut or pickles, might be pasteurized after fermentation, which kills off the good bacteria.
So you really have to read the label carefully.
Absolutely. And probably the biggest misconception is that gut health is just about digestion.
Yeah, we've talked about that. It's so much more than that.
It really is. It's about our immune system, our mental health, our overall well-being.
Okay, so let's talk about the more serious stuff. When gut health goes really wrong, what are some of the potential consequences?
Well, an unhealthy gut has been linked to a whole range of chronic health conditions. Things like irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, inflammatory bowel disease, IBD, autoimmune diseases, even obesity and type 2 diabetes.
Wow, so it's not something to be taken lightly.
Definitely not. It's clear that taking care of our gut is a crucial part of taking care of our overall health.
So when should someone actually see a doctor about their gut health? Like, when is it beyond something we can manage on our own?
That's a good question. I think it's always a good idea to talk to your doctor if you're having persistent digestive issues, especially if you're experiencing things like rapid weight loss, blood in your stool, severe pain, or fatigue that just won't go away.
Those are definitely red flags.
Right. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. What are some of the exciting things happening in the world of gut health research right now?
Oh, there's so much cool stuff going on. One area that's really interesting is personalized nutrition. The idea that we could tailor our diets to our specific gut microbiome.
So like getting your gut analyzed and then getting a custom meal plan.
Exactly. And then there's fecal microbiota transplantation, or FMT.
FMT, that sounds a little intense.
I know it's not the most glamorous thing, but it's basically transplanting healthy gut bacteria from a donor into someone with a serious gut infection.
Wow, like a gut bacteria transplant.
Pretty much. And it's showing some really promising results. And then there's a lot of research happening around the gut-brain axis, looking at how we can target the gut microbiome to potentially treat mental health conditions.
That's incredible. It seems like we're just scratching the surface of what we know about the gut and its impact on our health.
Absolutely. There's so much more to discover.
All right, so if we're going to sum this all up, what are the key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that gut health is about so much more than just digestion. It's about our immune system, our mental health, our overall well-being.
It's about taking care of that inner ecosystem.
Exactly. And there are so many things we can do to support our gut health.
We talked about focusing on probiotics, prebiotics, fiber, polyphenols.
Right, and incorporating those into our diet through a variety of delicious foods.
And then there's the lifestyle stuff, getting regular exercise, managing stress, prioritizing sleep.
All of that plays a huge role.
And if you're experiencing persistent gut issues, don't hesitate to talk to your doctor.
That's important.
It's amazing to think that we have so much influence over the health of our gut.
It really is empowering.
So as we wrap up here, I want to leave you with something to think about.
Okay.
Considering everything we've talked about today, what's one small change you can make starting today to support your gut health? It could be as simple as adding a serving of fermented foods to your diet, going for a walk in nature, or taking a few minutes to just breathe and relax.
That's a great question for everyone to consider.
Thanks for joining us on this fascinating deep dive into the world of gut health. We'll see you next time.
See you then.
Bye.